Let's try something wild for a second. I want you to imagine stripping away everything around you. Literally everything. Strip away the depth of the room you're sitting in. Strip away the volume of your own body. Take away the very concept of movement until your reality just vanishes entirely. Today in this explainer, we're embarking on a journey. We're going on an existential ascent, starting from the absolute bottom of reality all the way up to a dimension where the human brain just shuts down. It's going to be a trip.
So, what actually happens when your reality simply vanishes? Well, drop your mind straight into the absolute claustrophobia of the 0th dimension. And hey, forget about magical realms or sci-fi portals for a minute. In the simplest, most literal sense, a dimension is really just an independent direction. It's a degree of freedom. But what happens when you have exactly 0 degrees of freedom?
Think about it. If we forcefully squeezed your body down into the 0th dimension, your shape would disappear entirely. No width, no height, 0 depth. Your blood literally stops flowing because, well, your veins no longer have any volume to hold it. You are reduced to a solitary, lightless mathematical coordinate sitting in an infinite grid. There's no space to move, and honestly, the very idea of moving completely loses its meaning here. You seemingly exist, sure, but to the rest of the universe, you simply don't.
Okay, so how do we escape this void? To get you out of this lightless point, we need to pull you upward. We're going to grant you exactly 1 degree of freedom. Boom, you become an infinitely thin line, the 1st dimension. Now you can move forward, you can move backward, but if someone appears in front of you, you're stuck forever. Any obstacle is literally the end of the universe for you. So let's stretch this line out at a 90-degree angle and welcome to the flat, drawing-like reality of the 2nd dimension.
Now consider how perception works here. Back in 1884, Edwin A. Abbott introduced this fascinating rule in his book Flatland. He said creatures perceive the world 1 dimension lower than themselves, meaning if a 2D character looks at a circle, they don't actually see a circle, they just see a flat horizontal line. To know it's a circle, they literally have to physically walk all the way around it. And if a 2D being draws a square house around itself, it thinks it's perfectly hidden, right? But we, looking down from our 3D perspective above, we can see the walls and the character inside simultaneously. Their supposedly locked fortress is just an open box to us. And that brings us to a pretty shocking twist. We really pride ourselves on being these superior 3D beings peering down at the flatlands, right? But what if our cozy, seemingly 3-dimensional world is actually an illusion?
Okay, strictly speaking, we do not actually see in 3D. I know it sounds crazy, but a flat 2-dimensional image is projected onto our retinas, and our brain rapidly reconstructs a sensation of depth using things like perspective, shadows, and the distance between our eyes. Because of this little trick, we only ever see the outer shells of objects. If there's a locked safe sitting right in front of you, you cannot see what's inside it. To see the inside, you have to physically break the shape open. We are living in this perfectly balanced 3D incubator, completely and entirely blind to the insides of things.
But what happens when we absolutely must look inside a locked safe without breaking it? Well, think back to that 2D house. We could see inside it from the 3rd dimension, right? So to see inside our 3D safe without opening it, we have to ascend again. We have to step into the 4th dimension. Up here, thanks to Hermann Minkowski's 1908 theory that unified space and time completely ceases to be this flowing, abstract concept. Instead, time becomes a physical, visible direction. I want you to imagine looking at your entire life like a timeline in a video editing software. A viewer watches the video frame by frame, sure, but the creator sees the whole strip laid out all at once. In 4D, your body is permanently stretched along this exact axis. You're basically a giant continuous space-time worm. At one end of this worm is you as a baby, further along as you walk into school, then you sitting right here watching this explainer, and ultimately, you taking your last breath.
So here's the absolutely crucial point. A 4D being doesn't need to break open that locked safe today. No, it simply reaches back along the physical axis of time to yesterday, when the safe was already open. To a higher dimensional observer, there's no past or future, there's no movement at all. There is only a frozen monolith of your existence from beginning to end. In 4D, your life isn't a story unfolding, it is a literal, solid object.
But wait, what if you could take a different path? Because that 4D monolith, it's rigidly fixed. It's just one unchangeable destiny. And as conscious beings, we're constantly making choices, right? So let's keep moving. Let's see how this builds into the fifth dimension by expanding that single rigid line into pure, unfiltered possibility.
Okay, so in quantum mechanics, there's this thing called Hugh Everett's many worlds interpretation. It suggests that every event, actually every single choice you make, is a crossroads that completely splits reality. When we step into the fifth dimension, that long temporal worm of your life we just talked about, it splits into it every single decision you've ever made. Then it splits again and again, infinitely.
Your body in 5D transforms into this colossal, infinitely branching fractal tree. It's kind of like those narrative video games, think Detroit Become Human, where you have those massive flowcharts representing every possible choice. While in the fifth dimension, the branch where you're a billionaire, the branch where you were never even born, and the branch where you're watching this exact explainer right now, they all exist simultaneously as physical space. You are no longer just one person, you are an entire forest of all the people you could have possibly become.
But what happens when we actually run out of our own physical laws? Because even this infinite fractal of your possible lives is still totally constrained by the familiar laws of our physics. Gravity still works, atoms still bond together. So what happens when we collapse that entire massive 5D tree of probabilities down into a single point and pull yet another perpendicular axis right out of it?
Well, welcome to the sixth dimension. This is the 6D landscape, and here we completely leave human destinies behind. We enter a landscape of entirely different fundamental physics. I'm talking universes where gravity might be 1,000 times stronger, or the speed of light is completely different, or maybe atoms are fundamentally incapable of bonding together at all. This is where the total cosmic breakdown of anatomy and biology happens. A biological body is only possible where the right laws exist, you know? So in 6D, you are absolutely no longer human. You become pure information, an abstract mathematical structure, just bridging different universes.
So, is there an absolute limit to existence? We've scaled the heights of different realities, different choices, and completely different laws of physics. But is there a ceiling to all this, an ultimate end to this existential ascent? To find out, we have to take this entire infinite network of 60 universes with all their crazy alien laws, and we freeze them. We freeze them into the seventh dimension. Now, the seventh dimension is no longer just a physical axis. It becomes a final, cosmic metaphor. It is, quite literally, the space of all logically possible realities. And here, the sheer scale of cosmic horror and profound beauty really reveals itself. Why? Because the very concepts of existence, action, and time, they completely, utterly lose their meaning. Think about it. Action requires change, and change requires familiar time. But in the seventh dimension, absolutely nothing is ever created and nothing is ever destroyed. This space contains all possible variants of universes, all conceivable laws of physics, and all timelines from the beginning to the end of time, permanently locked into a single structure. It is an absolute, infinite, frozen map. It's not just a library of all written books. It is a library of all possible alphabets, all possible languages, and all possible stories that could ever logically exist anywhere. And this is where human macroscopic logic reaches its absolute limit. Now sure, the mathematics of string theory calculate the 8th, 10th, and 11th dimensions, but those are microscopic, curled up spaces. When it comes to the macro scale, our brains simply did not evolve to comprehend absolute infinity.
The return. Waking up in our perfectly balanced 3D incubator. Okay, let's come back down, exhale, look around you right now. The walls of your room are solid again. Time is only moving forward, tick by tick. And everything inside that closed safe? It remains a comforting mystery. We live in a very narrow, limited, but perfectly balanced geometric illusion. And honestly, we should really appreciate our 3D incubator. It's shielding us from the crushing, overwhelming weight of infinite possibility.
But as you sit there safely in your 3 dimensions, I'm going to leave you with this one question. If our entire existence, every choice you've ever made, and every law of physics we know, is just a single point in an absolute, infinite, frozen map, who drew the map? I would absolutely love to hear your theories in the comments below. If this journey bent your mind as much as it bent space and time, please subscribe, drop a like on this explainer, and join us for future explorations into science, philosophy, and the deepest mysteries of the universe. Until next time.